Thank you for tuning into this video. Be sure to support the channel by donating to my Patreon and joining my Discord if you haven't already. The link for both will be in the description down below. You know, I never thought that I'd ever quote JonTron, but
I have several questions.
hello everyone, it's Tyrant, and welcome to my first chapter discussion on the channel. Yeah, and we aren't just talking about one chapter either, we're going to be talking about 4. I just read chapters 220 through 223 of Black Clover, and it's actually made me ask quite a few questions that I honestly didn't think I'd ever ask myself. So what are we really wasting time for? Let's get right into it, starting with chapter 220. Now, I just want to remind you that these chapters may or may not be translated 100% accurately. None of these have been officially released yet, so keep that in mind when reading these chapters. Nothing might make that much sense until it is officially released. That said, let's begin. Now, admittedly, nothing too interesting happens at the very beginning of this chapter. Asta is still on trial for suspicion of being possessed by a devil, or worse, being a devil. Though Julius, the Wizard King, still steps in and essentially banishes Asta and the Black Bulls and sends them on a mission to try and clear Asta's name. It's not a bad idea, it definitely seems like something Julius will do. Though, for some reason, I can't help but think of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon franchise. Well, the first game in the series at least. Where you and your partner are chased out of town and are sent on an adventure to try and clear your name. Yeah, they are very similar on paper, but I can't help but feel that Black Clover just might take it a few steps further. We'll just have to see later on. Though, I think I do speak for everyone when I say that Kira is definitely up to something. Whether that's a good or a bad something is yet to really be seen, but I really don't trust him at all. This scene in particular is also very touching when Marx finds out that Julius is alive. He was definitely concerned and very worried and sad that he might never see Julius ever again. He honestly thought he was gone for good. So to see him here, younger and alive, he's relieved, but he's also kind of very upset. Understandably. It is Julius after all. Though, still, it brought a very bright smile to my heart to see these two like this. I kind of look forward to seeing it in the anime. We then cut to Charlotte in the hospital, who is recovering after being possessed by the elven spirits. Yeah, she's not really taking it all that well, and she mostly blames herself for being weak and pathetic. And Soul kind of also feels kind of bad having to rely on Yami for help. This, of course, leads to Charlotte freaking out and realizing that her fight with Yami while possessed was not a dream. everything that they were talking about and everything that Yami did was 100% real. And I kind of want to see how they translate what later ensues into the anime. Though this also brings me to my first question. If this is how Charlotte feels and how Charlotte is responding to being possessed, just how do the other people feel? We don't really get to see that. Maybe we will in the future, but I'm not feeling all that hopeful for that. The rest of this chapter is just Charlotte running for dear life out of sheer embarrassment that Yami is around and a little bit of fear of what Yami might say to her, or more precisely, what she thinks Yami is going to say to her. Which leads us into the next chapter. Chapter 221 is one that I believe is what causes a lot of gears to start turning for most people. And it's also one where I start to ask a lot of questions about the direction of the story. And of course, it contains something that I honestly didn't think we would ever see in Black Clover. Charlotte admits to her squad that she is in love with Yami of the Black Bulls. I kid you not, it finally happened. Okay, yeah, I knew that she was going to tell someone about this, but I didn't think it was going to be her squad. That took me by surprise. But not as much of what happened after that. The Blue Rose Knights are surprisingly on board with this idea. They are perfectly fine with their captain being in love with Yami of all people. Even Soul, a person who detests people like Yami, is perfectly okay with Charlotte, the woman who she looks up to and makes it pretty evident that she deeply admires as the person that she is, being in love with Yami. And that kind of makes me think, just what's left for Soul? What is going to happen to her? Is she going to think about how she really feels for Charlotte? Is she going to think about maybe being in a relationship with someone else? Who really knows? We really need to see more of the Blue Rose Knights, and I hope that we do. The Blue Rose Knights are so on board with Charlotte being in love with Yami that they actually urge her to confess her love to him. And, luckily for them, Yami shows up to try to talk to Charlotte, just like he tried to do in the hospital before Charlotte ran away. Much to the Blue Rose Knights' enjoyment, Soul's surprise, and of course Charlotte's very mild and entertaining dismay. Now, as Charlotte tries to explain just how she feels for Yami, Yami just goes under the assumption that he already does know how she feels for him. He thinks that she just doesn't like him, even though he couldn't be any further from the truth. Which brings me to my next topic I want to discuss, which is something kind of interesting. Asta chimes in and thinks that it's not that Charlotte isn't uncomfortable around him at all, but rather that she trusts him, and that she just struggles to be honest with her feelings. Which is actually something very interesting if you really think about it. And what makes it interesting is that Asta compares it to Noelle. He says that the reason why he thinks this is because he uses Ki to essentially try to understand how people really feel. And see, he says that Noelle also struggles to be herself or be honest with herself around Asta. The more she trusts him, the harder it is to really express herself. And yeah, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Does Asta know that Noelle is in love with him? Well, I don't think that is the case at all. I don't think Asta knows how Noelle really feels about him just yet. And let me explain. If Asta could read that from his Ki, then how come Yami, the guy who taught him how to do that, essentially, can't pick up on how Charlotte feels about him? Yeah, I think it's pretty evident that Asta does not know. Though I will say that he probably does know that Noelle is struggling to really be honest with herself. So, maybe, just maybe, in the future, we could see Asta try to pressure Noelle to be honest with herself. But Black Clover is still pretty much in the early stages of its run, so I don't think we'll be seeing anything like that for a while. So, at the very least, we get another step closer to seeing Yami and Charlotte being a canonized pairing. But again, this date here is just to discuss curses, because that's really all that Yami really wanted to talk about in the first place, because they still need to clear Asta's name, and they need leads. All that Yami does know is that Charlotte does have a curse on her, so maybe she knows something. What ensues on this dinner date, and I say that with air quotes, is that Yami learns that Charlotte is not the only Magic Knight captain who has a curse put on them. We learn that in the next chapter that the Silva family also have a curse put on them. Which brings me to another chapter that actually made me ask quite a few questions. Not so much about the Silva family, but about other people. Chapter 222 is a discussion between Dorothy of the Coral Peacocks and Noelle. Now, to be honest, I honestly didn't think we would really get that much from Dorothy ever since she was introduced. When I first saw her, I thought to myself, oh great, this is going to be a completely different kind of trope that's not funny. This is just going to be the character who is so skilled at magic that she could defeat her opponents in her sleep. Ha ha ha. But when she woke up in the resurrection arc, or in the reincarnation arc rather, it was actually kind of interesting. And I was reminded that this is Black Clover. Everyone, including the background characters, are completely full of surprises. And it just makes me look forward to seeing Dorothy in the future now. And actually really want to know why she left the Forest of Witches, or even just more about her in general. And maybe we'll get that, who's to say? First off, yes, I am willing to believe that Dorothy does know that Noelle is in love with Asta. It's just that Noelle is still at a stage where she's not willing to admit it to herself quite yet. This is just the kind of person Dorothy is, to really tease people and have fun with the situation before really getting into the real meat of it. After a little bit of fooling around, we actually get to the serious part of this chapter, where a iteration of Nozell, made by Dorothy's magic, informs to Noelle just how her mother really died. Apparently, she lost her life to a curse. And it's actually at this point that actually made me ask a few questions. Not just about the Nozell family, but about Asta, of all people. Could the reason why Asta not have any magic power simply be because that he was born with an anti-magic curse? Because as we've seen from the previous chapter and this one, that curses are a very nasty, forbidden magic that can just be put on people willy-nilly. So who's to say that's not possible? And also, what about Noelle's father? We are still yet to even hear about him. Is he even still alive? Did he lose his life to the curse too? That's something I'd really like to know sometime soon. This chapter also lets us know about the nature of the Silva family curse. That if you speak it aloud, that it will erode you away in the same way as those before you. So, maybe the reason why we haven't seen Noelle's father is because he decided to isolate himself, just so he wouldn't have to talk about this curse, so he can be away from his family. Or maybe he is dead, and maybe the curse got to him too. We don't really know because he's yet to ever become important. Chapter 222 ends with us learning about how is it that demons come into this world. Apparently, they can't do so on their own volition unless there's something wrong with the balance of power or something of that nature. Otherwise, they usually need help on our side of the realm. And we also learned that the name of the devil that killed Asta's mother is Magicula, which for some reason makes me think of Magic Dracula. But that makes me think of, again, just what are we going to see in the future? Will the Silva curse be broken? Can it be broken? Is Asta under some kind of curse as well? Does Magicula have any reason behind why Asta doesn't have any magic? Unfortunately, the next chapter doesn't seem to answer that many questions either. Rather, it only adds more onto the pile. This chapter, of course, is for some reason about Gordon, of all people. Apparently, Charlotte was talking about his family when the subject of curses came up. So, apparently, Gordon hails from a family that specializes in hex magic. It's not just partially unique to him. So we actually get to see more about his family. He actually gets to have some character development. which is pretty good because I know people who like Gordon, and I am one of those people. So I'm glad to see that he's getting some love too. But that also makes me think that maybe some of the other Black Bull characters can get the same treatment. Cough, cough, Gray. Something interesting that was brought up was because of the nature of Gordon's family, that they specialized in curses and hexes, that it was because of the family business why Gordon wasn't able to make friends, which kind of makes sense given how the story has progressed and has portrayed Gordon. It kind of just makes you feel bad for the guy. I mean, yeah, he's still a creepy looking mime dude, but at least you can at least sympathize with him. And look at him in a less creepy way. Or at least see him as less creepy, I should say. We of course do get to meet Gordon's family. And when we do, I just immediately thought of the Addams family. And who wouldn't? I mean, look at them. Just freaking look at them. They are kind of scary to just look at. They're like staring into your souls almost. Oy, I can just see the meme videos now. Gordon's family, as it has been established, focuses on studying curses. Though whether or not they cure them is yet to be seen. And it's partially because of this that makes me think that maybe Asta does have an anti-magic curse on him. Because, well, they didn't see anything wrong with him when they did an examination on him, but anti-magic, as Yami has stated, isn't magic, so maybe it's something they can't really see. Who's to really say? We need to wait for things to progress a bit more. But that isn't the most interesting thing that happens in this chapter. This chapter ends with a curse, a demon's curse, being located in the Heart Kingdom, which to my knowledge is currently allied with the Clover Kingdom. So what exactly is going on over there that would actually make one think that the Heart Kingdom is currently affiliated with demons and devils? We will have to see in the next chapter to find out. So yeah, I have to wonder just where the story is going now. The past few chapters have done nothing but make us ask questions, and we are yet to get very many answers for them, if any at all. So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think Asta's under an anti-magic curse? Do you think that Charlotte and Yami will take steps further to better their relationship? Do you think they'll finally become a canon couple? Do you think that Noelle will ever start to understand her feelings for Asta and start to be honest with herself? What do you think the story has in line for Soul now that Charlotte is starting to understand how she feels for Yami? So let me know down in the comments down below, because I'm curious. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more. I'll be busy with other videos in the future, so don't you worry, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So, I'll see you all next time.